Hey, it's Tim here. 22.4 is just around the corner. Tableau just updated the coming soon page for this release. The pre-release has been pretty light, so I'm pretty keen to see what's in this release. Let's get stuck in. Okay, so the page is up. I'll put a link to this in the description. You can go ahead and have a look at it. In this video, I'm just going to go run through what the features are. You can check the timestamps to see what features you're particularly interested in to jump ahead if you want to do that. Let's have a scroll down. And for the record, if you use Tableau Cloud, there is sometimes this odd instance where some of these features are already available depending on when Tableau upgrade your particular instance of Tableau Cloud. Tableau Cloud runs in different AWS regions and those are updated at different times. So you might even see some of these features ahead of the release, just so you're aware. So let's take a look at this feature. Now, it's always interesting what Tableau start the page with because I always think these are the sort of features they're excited about. So we've got Tableau External Actions. So let's go have a look at this. Tableau External Actions delivers a native integration with Salesforce Flow to help automate business processes, saving you time and money by connecting your dashboards to Salesforce. You can make decisions in context and run flows without leaving Tableau. So in essence, what I think this is a sort of workflow automation capability that links in with Salesforce. So this is very much a Salesforce and Tableau pairing, alongside all of the Salesforce features we've seen for a long time over the last couple of years. So that's going to be a nice feature to have. Now, the next one is image roles. I'm super excited about this. I previously did a video about a service called Cloudinary, which actually does real-time conversion and editing and manipulation of images just using URLs. The reason I did that video is because at conference last year, Tableau showed this capability of image roles and they said it would be coming this year. And so now that we have it, it's absolutely fantastic because if you pair those two services with this feature, I think some amazing things can be done. I'm going to be working on some examples in my upcoming video. But in essence, image roles allow you to work with images natively inside of Tableau by simply specifying the URL of an image, and Tableau will be able to support those images within a table. So you can see here the description is pretty robust. Now, there's going to be people trying to do all sorts of quirks and tricks for this. Like, people will try and load all sorts of things into images, GIFs, all sorts of things. So once we actually get our hands on this feature and start playing around with it, we'll get a better sense of how those images work and what the limitations are. If I just do a quick scan of this, Tableau can now dynamically map images to links in your data and encode them as exportable row or column headers. This new capability makes it possible to manage image assets externally to prevent workbook sizes from becoming too large. So the main use case here is, let's say you are a company like Facebook and you have emojis and emoticons that you want to track and you want to do some analytics on which emoticons are being used the most. There are hundreds and thousands of these things that exist across different language sets, across different use cases. So when you're trying to do a visualization of this, it's impossible to expect someone to load all those images into the workbook as images. And so what this lets you do is specify the image as an asset, i.e. using a URL hosted somewhere, maybe AWS S3. And then when Tableau loads those images from that URL, it's actually able to load those images from that location. So you're essentially externalizing the images from the workbook. The other thing this might enable you to do is also work in instances, for example, in consumer goods. Consumer goods, you're often looking at products. You want to be able to see the exact product and the exact sort of design or color. And when you have these assets already available in the cloud, as most fashion outlets do, they have all these assets pretty much done because obviously imagery is an important part of their business. You can actually link to those assets directly within Tableau. So you don't have to rebuild some sort of image workflow. You can just lean on the existing image workflow you might have. And that's where the service I talked about previously from Cloudinary comes in. So this is going to be an amazing feature. Gosh, this was just one of those things that will make life so much easier. The next one, replace a data source per sheet. So this is interesting. Selectively replace data sources on a worksheet level without complicated workarounds. Previously, replicating data sources would apply to all worksheets in the workbook using the data source. Now you have greater control and can select to apply data source changes to only the current worksheet. So that's quite nice. This gives you a little bit more finesse and control as to how your data sources work. So I think that's going to be another one of those quality of life improvements. A proper string function. Guys, this is probably one of the most requested items on the Tableau ideas page. I'll put a link to that in the description below. And the proper string function is actually one of those functions where I think people who've worked with databases I've asked, well, why isn't this there? Anyway, let's read through the description. Format string fields using the proper function instead of complex workaround calculation. This new function converts strings to a proper case. The first letter of a text string and any letters following non-letter characters are capitalized, while the rest are converted to lowercase. So if you've got a list of names here, you can see that Tableau will turn that into a much nicer list of names because you're just using a calculation that does exactly what you're seeing on screen. Takes the first letter of every word, makes it capitalized, and the rest are just all lowercase. So that's a nice thing to see. I'd love to see sentence case in there as well, so you can actually understand what's going on within like a sentence. Anyway, that's another request. Usage metrics. Total views and favorites are displayed as metrics in the new usage tab. With these insights, analysts can better understand what workbooks are popular so they can build content that resonates with their audience. Viewers can leverage usage metrics to validate that the content is widely used and trustworthy. So this is a bit meta. This is sort of using metrics to talk about like analytical content. And so it feels like Tableau is repurposing something they've already built for users to help them communicate how certain things are doing. When these sorts of things happen, I always feel like there's some sort of direction, and I don't quite get the direction with this, because if this was put like a metrics capability, then it's fine. But yeah, I don't see the value of this, because most companies who actually care about these metrics just create dashboards that tell them how multiple reports work. And so maybe the idea here is an analyst can add these metrics, which reduces the load on those kinds of things. But again, it could also create a very unhealthy dynamic, because we all know that views don't really mean anything. The way Tableau counts views is actually contested. If you've ever done Tableau server Postgres views, I'll put a link to that as well. There are 3 or 4 different ways of counting views on Tableau server as well. So once you dig into the weeds, it can actually become quite a complicated topic. A couple more languages, Swedish and Thai language support. That's going to be great. It's interesting, over the years, Tableau in the last year or two has really ramped up the language support across lots of different languages. So that list is getting very long and very well supported. It makes sense for a company that's global and obviously sits in the Salesforce ecosystem. If we go down to virtual connections, additional connector support. So Tableau are adding new connectors to the virtual connectors list. They've just added cloud connectors to 22.3. I've literally just done a video on this, which will either come out after this video or before this video, one of the two. But they're adding more connectors. So this is great, because then virtual connections are becoming so powerful. Unfortunately, you're going to need the data management add-on to be able to benefit from this, which is a real stinker. But nonetheless, that's there. Multiple connections in a virtual connection. So within virtual connections, you can now connect to an additional database to pull in an entitlement table. This feature simplifies the process of creating policy statements and removes the requirement to duplicate entitlement tables across databases. So this is super interesting. I actually just showed this capability in my previous video about virtual connections. And because I was using a beta instance of Tableau Cloud, I didn't realize that this was actually a feature set for the next release of Tableau. So that's super cool to see. In that video, I basically showed that I was adding in multiple connections across different cloud instances, and it was absolutely great. So this makes it very easy to bring data sources together and still be using a powerful capability of virtual connections. The next virtual connection feature, refresh data from virtual connection editor. So this is nice. You can, I assume you can nudge a data source and tell it to refresh in essence. So within the editor of the virtual connection, you can now manually refresh the database connection to get the latest data. So this is essentially, I guess, a quality of life improvement. As you're working in this view, you can update the data to make sure you're seeing the latest information as it updates in the database. Credential rotation APIs. So using the new credential rotation APIs, you can programmatically change credentials for virtual connections and automate operations. There are 3 new API endpoints to help you get virtual connections, get virtual connection connections, and modify virtual connection connections. Man, Tableau really need to work on the terminology. There's too many connections in that sentence. Not even that sentence, in those names. Modify virtual connection connections. Shouldn't it just be modify virtual connections? Modify virtual connect, get virtual connections, get virtual, wait, what? Get virtual connections, get virtual connection connections. Oh man, I'm really lost. I'm really lost. I'm sure this is absolutely correct. I know, and I know a few people in the team that kind of go through this text. I'm sure they're absolutely, category correct on what they're saying, but I'm really struggling to sort of get it in my head. So once I understand that, I'll maybe try and clarify that when we actually do the video when it launches. Replace input steps in Tableau Prep. So you can replace input steps much, much easier. So before, what you had to do is bring a connection in, delete the one that's there, and then reconnect the connection to that new input. This time around, you can just drag it on top, and by the looks of this images, it will give you the option to replace, which is quite nice, alongside Union, of course. So that's going to be really cool. External assets default project. So new external assets are now automatically added to a new project titled external assets default projects. Now, in the previous video, I talked about moving external assets, and when essentially you got rid of them, I didn't know where they went, and this makes so much more sense now. They go into this folder, I assume. This is the default place for external assets. External assets obviously appear if you have the data management add-on, because external assets are just things like databases and connections and tables and anything you might connect to visualize or work with data. So there's going to be a default project for those coming very soon. LogShark plugin for Tableau Prep. Now, this is super cool. With the new LogShark plugin, you can easily collect Tableau Prep log files and automatically generate Tableau dashboards to analyze interactive performance, flow execution performance, and errors. So this is almost in the realm of, I guess, helping users of Prep understand where things are going wrong. But what I don't understand here, LogShark plugin for Tableau Prep. I think what this plugin does is it processes LogShark files for you in Tableau Prep, so you don't have to use a tool like Alteryx or something else to work with it. So with new LogShark, you can easily collect Tableau Prep log files and automatically generate, but it does specifically mention Tableau Prep log files. So it feels more like LogShark for Tableau Prep than it does anything else. So that's kind of interesting to see. And yeah, we'll see how that works. Tableau Prep UI improvement. So simplified Tableau Prep UI. I noticed in a pre-release that the lines were starting to turn squiggly, as it were. The noodle has come to Tableau Prep, as it were. Tableau Prep makes the process of building a flow to clean and simple shape data. Whoa, I can't read. Tableau Prep makes the process of building a flow to clean and shape your data incredibly visual. With a revamped flow edge graph, we're reducing visual distractions that arise when the flow graph becomes larger and more complicated. These changes will provide you with a more legible, flexible, and playful experience when creating flows. What does that mean? We'll have to find out when it launches. I'm not really clear what that means. Workbook Optimizer enhancements. Enhancements to the Workbook Optimizer allow workbook authors to ignore individual best practices that aren't relevant to them. Okay, that's cool. And implement specific best practices with a single click. Oh, that's so nice. So being able to, implement a best practice is really good, because it means that Tableau can see what you're doing and it can suggest and just go do those things for you, making the optimization now a step and a process rather than just an instruction, which is a really, really nice thing to see. Let's go ahead and look at Data Guide Smart Open. So Data Guide is now opens by default. Data Guide Smart Open. I swear that in the last release, this was on by default and then it was hidden because of a bit of a fallout with basically people not liking that it turned up. So anyway, Data Guide now opens by default when you first access a dashboard. When you return to a dashboard, Data Guide will remain in the state you left it in, open or closed, to reflect your preferences. So here's what I think might happen. 22.4 rolls out for Tableau Cloud, and everyone complains again because they think this feature has come back to the way it used to be before it was off by default. Now it's going to be on by default, but only for the first time you load. And when you hide it, it's hidden. But every time you first access a dashboard, it will show up, which most people will think means it's broken. But actually, it's just going to be a really weird thing to explain. I'm looking forward to that video. We'll try and get that out as soon as we can, because that is just going to confuse people. But let's wait and see what happens. Web authoring enhancements, conveniently access number and date formatting, including custom number formats, visually break up sections of your table to improve understanding by applying table shading for headers and panes and cells. The thing about web authoring enhancements is they take up time in terms of the release. They are quoted as new features, but they're just replacing the status quo. And in some cases, they are adapting the way it works. And so I think we're moving to a world, I've said this for I don't know how many years now, we're moving to a world where the web will be the primary version of Tableau, and it will work a bit like Tableau Prep, where Tableau Prep for desktop is actually just a web container for the web version of Tableau Prep. So lots more enhancements. We should just probably do like a state of the state of web authoring in 2022 and just see what's changed, what's gotten better, and how many new additional things we can do versus what we could do before. Custom views, REST API. So, automate management for custom views at scale. So we are getting a lot of APIs. The APIs left, right, and center. You can now leverage custom views in embedded scenarios to deliver relevant views that save your users filters, sorts, or selections. The custom views REST API introduces the following methods: get customized view image, get custom views, update custom views, delete custom views. So that's really interesting. Given this an API means you can set up sort of instructions to check and manage all these things. And because if everyone in an organization, especially a large organization, has large amounts of custom views, they can almost become a problem in and of themselves. So it's really useful that there's an API now that can maybe allow you to do some, if a custom view hasn't been accessed in such and such a time, then go ahead and delete it, because if it's not been used after a while, delete it. When someone leaves the organization, go ahead and find all the related custom views and delete them as well. So that's sort of a really useful set of capabilities. The embedding API has been getting a real revamp. I haven't properly covered the embedding API version 3 because of the almost relentless pace that they're adding features to it. I'm going to wait and do a video once it's sort of a little bit more stable and we can give more of a long view of what's happening with this. But in essence, the embedding API has been redone almost from the ground up, and the new version of the API keeps on adding features. The latest version of it, the API, introduces pagination, allowing developers building products powered by Tableau to fetch all underlying data, and essentially tells you what page that you're on, so you can page through data in a more sort of programmatic way. And that's a quality of life improvement really for developers. Tableau Mobile Salesforce SDK integration. So Tableau Mobile integrates with the Salesforce Security SDK to help you implement mobile security, site settings, and enforce policies. You can now block access on jailbroken devices or those with debuggers or malware. So for people who are jailbreaking their iPhones, you can block Tableau essentially. So that's good to know. New accelerators on Tableau Exchange. So we've got supply intelligence, inventory, shipment logistics, and we have major upgrades to production scraps. That's a bit of an interesting one there. Tableau Mobile, deep linking improvements, seamlessly switch to sites or servers on mobile based on the destination of linked content. When clicking links to Tableau content from third-party applications or sites, you will be redirected to the Tableau mobile app and prompted to switch sites or service if you're not initially signed into the correct one. Oh, this is pretty nice. This has been like a bit of a broken capability, and I haven't done enough on Tableau mobile. I did one ages ago, but I need to do more on this because quite a few people do use Tableau mobile, and it's good to be able to see it. XSL JDBC connector on Tableau Exchange. So there's now a new connector on Tableau Exchange for XSL. Salesforce Marketing Cloud Connector. That's a pretty useful connector for those people who use that feature. I hear a lot about that connector, but I know nothing of what it does. So if you know, let me know. ServiceNow JDBC connector, TIBCO connector for Linux, and activity log enhancements. This particular one is specific to Tableau Cloud. Audit permissions, change history with the activity log. This release expands auditing capabilities by tracking changes to group memberships, site roles, content moves, and more. And more is always a brilliant thing to add at the end of the sentence because it just means, yeah, and whatever else we could think of. I got lazy and I stopped the sentence here kind of statement. So yeah, that's pretty much everything in 22.4. And there are always a few things that sneak in and small changes that we kind of don't really find out here. What I always say to people is this is the marketing statement about what's in 22.4. What you really want to wait and see is the release notes for 22.4 because that has the line-by-line changes and also things that don't necessarily make it into the official launch date but might come later down the line because, of course, with Tableau Cloud, some of these things are rolled out in a slightly different cadence to what we're used to. If you're looking for the server version of some of these features, that won't come until next year in 23.1 actually, because server only gets updates every 6 months, and server just had its updates in the most recent release of 22.3. So you're going to be getting updates every other year. And so the obvious question that has come up a few times now, we tend to see these updates now come every 6 months, but the problem here is that we don't actually get features every other month. So yeah, that's something to look out for. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this particular release. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. But of course, I'm still going through 22.3. And yeah, if you've got any feedback on this video, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Tend to see... Hey mate, can I call you back in 5 minutes?